Welcome back, everybody. And in today's video lesson, we are going to learn about harmonizing by fourths. An important thing to remember when harmonizing by fourths is that the interval size is going to change. So looking down below, we have the key of C major, and I have the C major scale written out linearly, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. All right, and so if we were to think about harmonizing by fourths, what this means is that the C note is our root, and to harmonize that, we would use the fourth degree, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would give us an F. And I would consider D, and I would think about the fourth degree of that relative to the C major scale, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would give me G. Okay, and so you can kind of see where this is going to go. This is just going to look something like this. Now, this is fairly straightforward and easy because everything is linear, right? So pretty simple. And we have discussed in the past, well, what if the notes aren't linear, right? What if I had some example where the notes were, let's say C, and you had A, you had F, G, and B. Well, my first thing is I'd have to identify what key it is. And in this case, I would hopefully recognize that this is in the key of C major because I have a B, not a B flat, and I have an F, not an F sharp. And so to me, those things really point out this is in the key of C. And knowing that, then I think about, well, what's the fourth degree of the C major scale? And I can see that, the fourth degree of the C major scale because I'm starting here at C, C, D, E, F. So that would be an F. And I think about what's the fourth degree in the C major scale relative to this A, B, C, D. And that would be a D note, okay? And what would be the fourth degree of the C major scale relative to this F? F, G, A, B. Now this is where it gets interesting because here I am putting a B. To harmonize the F, I would use B. If I had messed up the key signature and I thought this was F major, my harmonization would be B flat. And so you could see that's going to give you a different feel. Now, is B flat wrong? No, it's not wrong if I don't have this over here. So if I'm only looking at this section here, this could be in the key of C, or it could be in the key of F. In this case, which one do I choose? Do I choose the B or do I choose the B flat? If I only had those four notes, that was it, right? I have no other pieces of information. The answer is it's up to you. You get to make a decision, which is kind of nice. And so you could decide. You could try the B and see, does that sound nice to you? Or you could try the B flat and see which one you actually prefer. But if you could see that this is basically an ambiguous scale, right? So C, A, F, and G. What I need to differentiate this between F and C major is a B or a B flat. And since I'm missing that, then I'm allowed to choose, okay? So that's sort of what you would do, is you would try to characterize the scale. You would try to determine, is this scale C major, F major, G major? And then from there, you would just use the fourth degree relative to each note. Let's look at some other examples. Now, in this example, we have the key of G minor. And so once again, we want to consider what is the fourth degree relative to each of these notes. Well, these notes are in order, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth degree from this G is just simply going to be C. And the fourth degree from this A, 2, 3, 4 is going to be D. And the fourth degree from this B flat, 2, 3, 4 is going to be E flat, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and this is, again, it's written linearly, so it's very simple to do. One of the interesting things about this is you can recognize that when it's linear, it's very simple to do. So because of that, you might want to determine what your key is. And so whatever notes you have, you write them out, right? So you'd write them out, like here are my notes. And then after you've written them out, you write them out linearly like this. And then it makes it very simple so that you can go, oh, anytime I see a C note, I use an F to harmonize it if I'm harmonizing by fourths. Anytime I see a G note, I need a C note to harmonize with it, okay? So that makes it easy if you write it out linearly like that. Now let's explore that second point where we did say the interval size is going to change. And if we take a look at this, C to F is going to be considered a perfect fourth. D to G is a perfect fourth. E to A, perfect fourth. You go, well, wait a minute, you said the interval size is going to change. I'm not seeing that here, right? This doesn't look like that at all. Well, if we take a look at this next one, this is not going to be a perfect fourth. This is going to be, you can see, let's take a look, what would be a perfect fourth? So F to B, so if we write that out, F, G, A, B, flat. So B flat would be our perfect fourth. Why? Because we have whole, half, whole, half. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what can I notice? Well, this is a B right here, and this is a B flat. So what is that interval then? Well, it turns out F to B instead of B flat is going to be, hopefully you guessed it, an augmented fourth. So this is different. The interval size here is changing. Now let's continue on. Let's look at some more. And so G to C is a perfect fourth. A to D is going to be a perfect fourth. And B to E is going to be a perfect fourth. Okay, so the interval size definitely is changing here. Now, let me give you one last piece of background for these harmonization by fourths. And so one thing I want to give you is maybe an example, and you could think of a song called Smoke on the Water. And if you're a guitarist, this is literally like the first song that you learn. So there's a part of it, and I don't know exactly what chords he's using, but he uses a power chord, right? So he uses, let's call it a G5. And just to give you some interesting background about that, so a G5, and if I looked at a G5, if I were to analyze it, it would have something like this. G, D, and then the note above that would be a G, okay? So we'd have, like, these are an octave apart. So this is like the low G, we'll put like L, and this is like a high G, okay? And maybe a different color so we can see that a little bit better. So low G and a high G, so like a lower octave and a higher octave. Well, what he's doing in that song is he's actually not playing the low G. And so if I think about it, the distance here from G to D is a perfect fifth. It's a P5. And since he's not doing that though, what you're actually hearing, your ears are really hearing this relationship, which is D to G, which is a perfect fourth. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of interesting to think about. And we actually see that over here as well, where I see if we look at E to A is a perfect fourth, A to D is a perfect fourth. Okay, so it depends, like, well, am I going E to A or am I going A to whatever, okay? If you're starting from E, then E to the A is a perfect fourth. But if I'm starting from A to D is the perfect fourth. It's not A to E anymore, so it's different. What your ear hears, even though he's playing power chords, is you're actually hearing this perfect fourth. So if you wanted to know what perfect fourths sound like, that would be a really good example. In our next video, we are going to learn all about harmonization by fifths.